Welcome back to a video I would maybe prefer not to make, but I still feel it's important to do it. For those of you who watched my previous video about Danish one-wheel games, you may have noticed my board died on the event, and at that point I was not exactly sure what happened, so I didn't jump into conclusions. While in this video we will do a deep dive into what happened, because when something fails, I'm that kind of person that needs to figure out exactly what happened and learn something to prevent anything similar from happening again. So for the start, yes, it's about my VESC Wheel 4. It has been an amazing one wheel, and this whole failure has absolutely nothing to do with the design of the VESC wheel. It has to do with third-party components. I'm absolutely happy with my board, and there has even been updates on it. I can't wait to release a video about that, but in this one we need to dive into third-party component failures, how to prevent them, how to spot them, and why it's very unfair for the community to provide parts that are of bad quality. So let's get to the point. If you're gonna watch this entire video, you're gonna learn about two possible ways how bad quality components can result in a catastrophic board failure. As you know, I travel a lot to events and I just ride a lot in general. So I went to Danish one wheel games, which is an absolutely fun event to visit. And on the first day when I was practicing the course, it was kind of riding, but it was like severely underpowered and jerky and just not performing nearly as it should. And I stopped, I checked everything, couldn't figure out what it was. I was checking my settings. All that I could see is that the currents from the motor were extremely high, abnormally high, but I still didn't know what's wrong. Is it the controller? Is it the motor? I suspected one of those, but couldn't figure it out. So decided to test it some more, did a little bit more riding, and it was making very strange noises. And again, it was just feeling absolutely underpowered, and the amperage in the app was showing insanely high numbers. So if you experience something like this, the first advice I can give you is stop riding until you figure out what it is. I actually did that and decided to open my foot pad. Everything looked normal, and I decided to do another easy spin just to see what happens. And once I pressed on the sensor, the motor engaged. It was jerky, it was weird. Pushing the foot pad down, I applied pressure on the motor. That's when my controller literally exploded. It was a 250R from Tronic. And this is when I packed my board and just took it home, because it was unfixable on site anyway, and I really wanted to take some time at home and figure out what happened in peace. I immediately suspected something's wrong with the motor, but couldn't really prove it, and there was no point to do it on site. So once I got home, I opened the motor, and guess what? Everything inside looked absolutely normal. I really couldn't find anything wrong. It was not scraping, everything was turning smoothly. Installed a new controller, fired it again, and it was behaving the same again. So this was a sign that the controller was not the fault. And I immediately unplugged everything, because I knew whatever is wrong and whatever is causing this can blow your controller up. So I saved the second controller, and once I opened the motor again, the problem really showed. It's the Superflux MK1. And the Superflux MK1 has two rows of magnets. And I immediately noticed they are not aligned. They should be aligned. Those lines should continue and should be aligned. They were not. So what happened, I figured out. Because it has two rows of magnets, when I applied the force on the motor, the whole bottom row turned and rotated and got misaligned. This created a bad magnetic field, a wrong magnetic field, whatever you want to call it, and the controller was pushing extremely high currents because the motor didn't react on them, and this is why it failed. Why I didn't notice this in the first place when I opened the motor up in the first time is because, by coincidence, the magnets that were turning stopped exactly aligned. Run it a little bit, I reopened it again, and they were unaligned. So there you go, the Superflux MK1 with two rows of magnets can blow your controller up if they're not glued properly. And guess what? I started pulling them out and found almost absolutely no glue underneath the magnets. It's bare metal everywhere, almost no sign of glue at all, just a tiny fraction at some points. If I don't hit them hard, you can see that the top row is still somehow glued, while the bottom row is just moving freely, as you can see. It requires minimum force to get the magnets off, and they're completely loose. So my issue here clearly was horrible quality of the Superflux motor. It didn't result in me losing a motor, it resulted in me losing a controller, losing a motor, and ruining my holidays. Anyway, another thing I want to mention here, the controller raised the currents significantly because the motor just didn't spin and it wanted it to spin, so it raised the currents until the MOSFETs blew up. Everybody should know at this point that MOSFETs should be isolated towards each other and towards the cooling plate. I used Kapton tape here, plus an additional layer of gap filler or the thermal pad, whatever you want to call it. I'll show you, in normal conditions, this will not destroy the controller at all. I used this method on another board, made 5,000 kilometers with it, with zero problems and zero overheating. While I totally agree this is not the right approach or the best approach, because when such an abnormal scenario happens, as it happened to me right now, when the MOSFETs heat up extremely fast because of abnormally high currents, yes, I agree in this case, the controller might fail sooner if installed in this way, but once again, this is not the reason for my failure. It's just a thing that I'm acknowledging I could have done better. Therefore, here you have the right method. This diagram is from Atlanta One Wheel Shop. It shows one of the best ways to do it. You put a small plastic washers here, then you put the gap filler on, and when you tighten the controller to the cooling plate, this washer will prevent the MOSFET from getting too close to the cooling plate and from touching it. So it will still allow you to squeeze the thermal pad, but just not too much. So this is definitely a better way to do it. But these controllers are obsolete anyway, so you're probably not going to use them anymore. And if you're using something like this, you won't even question yourself how to mount it because it's already in an enclosure and it's better. Anyway, just explaining, but yeah, VESC build project is moving on with the Inoit MK8 at this point, but more on that in a separate video. Now, if you think this is a very, very rare case and I'm the only one whose motor killed his controller, you're wrong. This is just one of the cases when a poor quality Superflux motor killed the controller. Let me show you another one. Because I'm that kind of person that wants to fix things and not replace them, I couldn't really fix those magnets. Some of them were broken when I was pulling them off, and there's no way I would get similar magnets or just align them properly and glue them. So I ended up buying another dead motor from a guy in Czech Republic whose stator got bad and his rotor was fine. So let's look at what happened on this one that also resulted in a dead controller. As you can see, the winding and this whole part is mounted on this axle, just sliding it on this axle, and then if you see those marks, there's a press that presses this, deforms the axle itself a little bit and prevents from this whole thing from moving. And this should be done on both sides so that this cannot get up or down and it just stays in the place. But look at this one. With very little force, I'm able to slide it off. So what happens to the rider of this motor is this winding started rubbing into these parts of the motor, and you can see it damaged the winding, it started shorting it. The outcome was the same as mine. His controller failed because the currents with these shorts were instantaneously insanely high. And why is this sliding off? Because of bad quality, because somebody forgot to press this axle to prevent the moving of it. So there you have it, two examples how Superflux MK1 can destroy itself, your controller, and your holidays. With a simple quality check, this could have been prevented. My magnets with little glue may be a little harder to spot, but this one not being pressed should be very easy to spot if some quality checks would have been in place. I don't know on which mileage it happened on this broken stator, but I suppose pretty soon, because this was sliding very easy. My magnets were obviously poorly glued, but they still managed to hold up 2000 kilometers, and I'm suspecting that's because I do ride a lot, but I take it easy. I don't do crazy stunts, I really avoid crazy jumps. So it was working for a while, and it failed at about 2200 kilometers beyond repair. So I ended up taking the good rotor with the magnets from the check motor, and on the way painted it green and made sure I don't lose magnets ever again. I pulled so much glue on them, they're stuck there forever. I used green Loctite, the permanent metal glue, just poured it under the magnets so it pours through them until it started getting out on the bottom side, and then I even used thermal epoxy on the edge. It's an overkill, I know, but I really wanted to make sure that this never gets out of place ever again. I built one working motor out of two broken ones. I'm still riding this motor today, and it has well over 5000 kilometers on it now, and it performs great because it was taken care of, inspected, glued, assembled together, new bearings, new everything. It's just awesome right now. All of this happened over a year ago, but I'm very busy with all of my projects, and it was far from a priority. It was far from something I even want to publish on my channel, but I still think it deserves a place here. How is the owner of this motor compensated? I don't know. I contacted Fungineers about my issue with the magnets. I explained everything as I explained you right now, and the response was, I can't comment on that, it's an old motor. While I bought this motor less than 1 year before this whole thing happened, and it was at that point less than 4 months since I started riding it. But yes, I did 2200 kilometers in 4 months because I ride a lot. The whole I can't comment on that just tells me they don't really want to deal with it, and this is an old product for them, they don't care, and let's move on. Fine with me, because I'm making these videos to show you how much disruption and costs can a faulty and bad quality product cost to us riders. In both cases, even if we would get a new motor, we still lost a controller and we lost holidays, and I lost a huge amount of work figuring out what happened and repairing it, so it's just not worth anything. So I really can't understand how some people don't care about quality at all. I'm not hiding any facts here, it is absolutely true. The MK2 has one row of magnets, so it would be way more tricky for those motors to cause you such an issue, but I am not calling these motors old. I would still be riding this exact motor if this wouldn't happen, and I'm sure there's a ton of people who still ride the MK1 today and don't know about this. That being said, I was offered a 1000 mile warranty if I get a new motor, an MK2, and I'm sorry to say, this just sounds ridiculous to me. 1000 miles is something I would expect a tire to last, not a motor. Even this one failed on me after 1000 miles, so this just further tells you how much the manufacturer believes in the quality of its products if the warranty they want to offer is only 1000 miles. That is just ridiculous. The technology of making electrical motors now is extremely good, and this could easily be the hardest part of the one wheel to fail if it would be built properly. That being said, I hope you learned something today. I hope you had better luck with your third-party components, building your VESC boards. As every failure, this is just gonna make me more strong and more experienced, and we're gonna move on. There is very exciting news about my VESC Wheel 4 updates that I did not cover on this channel yet. It's my absolutely favorite board. It absolutely changed the way how I ride, how I travel, how I do everything. And as of now, this board has about 8,000 kilometers, only 2,200 on this motor, the rest on the green one, the repaired one. So it surpassed the original one for at least 2 times as many kilometers, and I'm sure it's gonna continue moving on. I'm not letting it go. These parts should last if built properly. For those of you who know me, you should know by now that I put big priorities in reliability of products, and this really is some kind of worst case scenario I really try to avoid, but sadly it was unavoidable this time. Let's end the video here. Soon you're gonna see more videos about events I joined with this board, also some I joined with another board because this one was broken for some time, and there's gonna be a video about updates of the VESC Wheel 4 and a lot of future things I have planned. It's just very time consuming to do all of this, so hit that like button, subscribe, show some support, and I'm gonna see you back soon. I removed already 8 magnets from the stack that fell off, and that is the first one that has some signs of glue on it. All of the others were completely clean. I couldn't find any glue on them, and I'm not sure how it looks here. This spot is definitely different than this spot, and this spot by the color, I think this is absolutely without glue. This might be some glue, I'm not sure, and here it's obviously nothing at all again.